Hello, students. This is your teacher, Ms. Fenderson. I am going to introduce you all to one of our local officials. As you all know, we've been studying local government this week, and I would like to introduce you all to Mr. Terrance Flynn. He will let you all know what his position is in the county.
Hey, good morning, Jackets. How we doing? We're recording this on St. Patrick's Day, so I'm going to say happy St. Patrick's Day to everybody. I am the General Registrar for Northampton County and also the Director of Elections for Northampton County. I work down here in Eastville, about a quarter mile from the school in the big county building. Some of you might know me as Liam's dad. I also coached a little track there a while back, so you might remember me from that too. But hello, how's everybody doing?
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. I would like for you to tell us what your responsibilities are in your position as voter registrar.
Sure. My primary responsibility is to, as a registrar, is to make sure that all the voting records of all our Northampton voters are kept up to date and safely secured, so that we have a record of everybody's voter registration, and we update those. And of course, we take new voters in and register them. Sometimes we have to remove voters from the rolls because they move or other things. So that's one big part of my job. That's pretty much fundamental. The other part of my job is, as Director of Elections, we run all the elections we do for Northampton County. And especially for this year's interesting is we help candidates, what we call, get on the ballot. It's not just an automatic process where you want to run for office and you just call us up. You have to fill out some paperwork. You have to do petitions, but we assist candidates, local candidates, getting on the ballot. This election, we're going to have and up in November, we will have, besides the governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, and House of Delegates, we're also going to have a lot of local candidates. So Board of Supervisors, districts 1, 2, and 3 will be up for election, and that includes our very own Oliver Bennett in District 3, and also school boards districts 1, 2, and 3 will be up for election, and also a at-large position on school boards. That's going to be pretty exciting for November. So if you can register to vote, please register to vote and vote in that election.
Well, that sounds great. So throughout history, we've learned that there were a lot of restrictions for voting in the past. Yeah. And I would like for you to tell the students how they can register to vote.
Well, we have taken steps to make voting and registering to vote pretty easy in the Commonwealth. Number one, probably the fastest way to register to vote, if you have a DMV driver's license with a signature or a DMV ID card with a signature, you can go to elections.virginia.gov. There's the website, and take about 20 minutes and fill out your online application. We get that and process it. Also, you can always come down to our office. Like I said, we're about a 10-minute walk from school. It's very simple to register to vote. We need your name, your address, your age. We need to make sure you're an American citizen. We need your full Social Security number. And then we're going to ask you questions about, have you ever been convicted of a felony? Have you ever been judgmentally incapacitated? And that's it. So as I'm sure some of you are applying to jobs and colleges, all this information is probably pretty basic to you at this point. If you do give us, you do not have to have an ID to register, but if we do see an ID, it allows you to vote absentee by mail your first election. Otherwise, you have to vote in person. But yeah, it's we try to keep it very simple.
All right, thank you. That's really great that it's not a complicated process as it used to be. I'm glad that it's been made very simple for citizens who want to take part in this very important democratic process to vote. Now, we know how to register, but where do I vote? Like, please tell us that.
Okay, I'm ready this one. There we go. This is a map of the election districts in the county. So I'm going to tilt my screen a little bit. So right now you're looking at, this is District 1. what we call the Cape Charles district. And you would vote right there on Tazewell Avenue, at it gives you right there, the whole Trinity United Methodist Church. And again, that's all District 1. Yellow, I guess, maybe. The pink is the Sheridan District 2. And it's a very interestingly shaped district. But you all vote at Sheridan United Methodist in, there we go. You all vote at Sheridan United Methodist right there in Sheridan. We're going to pop up to District 4, which is a very long district, but it just doesn't have a lot of folks in it. Sorry about the light on it, but District 4, we vote up at Johnson's United Methodist Church, right up in on Bayside Road, about 5 minutes or about 3 minutes from the middle school where we used to be. District 3 is what we call the Nassauatics district, and of course that's fire and rescue right there by the ball fields in Nassauatics. And then District 5 is Exmoor and all the way down to Occohannock Neck, and they vote up at the Exmoor Fire Station, if you can see that, right by Western Auto. So we tried to keep every election district ought to have a town to vote in. We weren't able to do that for District 4, but it still works. We choose how you vote. It has to be close to everybody, has to be on a main road. I mean, there's some real different things about it. We just can't pick a place. So in District 4, we had we had to look at different places, but it's got to be ADA so we can have everybody is comfortable using our facilities. So we're really happy with the people that will let us come in and do that, because it's not an easy thing letting people come in for an election, especially these days. So it's nice that people will give us their buildings and, churches and all that.
I'm glad you shared that with us. Now it's so much more convenient to find where you vote.
But we have moved a lot of polling places in the last so many years. This is the year we redistrict, and I don't know if you want to talk too much about that, but we redraw the lines and things may change from this year as well. But we'll see.
So yeah, I mean, I think, it's really important, that everybody gets involved in the process. But what happens if I move away temporarily, not permanently, or if I'm at college in another state or another city? How do I vote?
Well, what we tell people is, and I'm glad you asked this question, because your students are probably going to do a little traveling after high school, work, college, military, all sorts of different things. So first of all, we would like you to stay registered in Northampton County. It's pretty simple to do that. And if you stay registered with us, we will send you mailed ballots that are very simple. Let's say the absentee process. You send us an application. You can do it online. Again, when we get the application, we send you a mail ballot. You fill it out at your leisure, and you send it back to us. We've made it easier because we include the prepaid postage on the return envelope, so you don't need that. And also, because we know a lot of people are voting first time by mail, we're still doing the cure process. So if you make a mistake filling out your envelope, we'll work with the voters to make sure that they have a ballot that we can count. So we've made that pretty simple. And the other thing I want to mention too, Sharon, I forgot to bring this up. When you register to vote, you get a voter information letter. Tells you you're registered to vote, but at the bottom it shows where your voting districts are, the exact location. So and we encourage people to keep that letter, because it's also can be an ID for when you vote. You can go in there and show them that letter, and you're all set. So when you sign up to vote, we're going to send you a letter. Keep that letter handy, so when it comes election day, you know when to vote and where to vote and everything like that. But the other thing about changing your where you vote is voting is tied to residency. So if you want to stay a resident of Northampton County, keep your voting here. We've had students mess their scholarships up because they left Northampton and they might have a very specific scholarship for Northampton. And, they go to a school and they register in Charlottesville, they register down in Blacksburg, wherever they go, Petersburg, and all of a sudden, they're not eligible for a shore-based scholarship. So we definitely tell kids, always keep your information here with us, and we'll treat you right.
I never realized that happened to people. I'm glad you mentioned that. That's something that my students definitely need to know.
Well, we are good because we're small and we know these folks usually. So we usually call parents up and say, "Hey, did you know so and so?" Because it makes sometimes financial aid, it gets really boggled up like that. So just something to think about.
That definitely is important. I wanted you to just give me a little bit of background about how the pandemic changed voting this past year.
Yes. Well, it couldn't have hit a worse year. I know it never was good timing for anybody, but we did. Last year was our busiest election year with 4 elections. We had a presidential primary, we had Maytowns, we had the June primary, and then we had the Big Daddy, the November presidential. So we ran 3 of those under pandemic conditions. It was challenging because everything was new. I mean, we didn't even you go up the chain, and even the CDC doesn't really know how to advise you to do in-person voting. So the first thing we did, we leaned very heavily on absentee voting, and it wasn't just us. The state legislature came in, the GA, and the General Assembly created a lot of laws to make it possible for us to do more than we could usually with absentee voting. We waived the witness signature because in the Maytown elections, you still had to have a signature as a witness to an absentee ballot. And I remember I remember having to go to voters' houses. We had people who were like, you couldn't go anywhere, so they were shut in, and they had no neighbors around them that could come and witness. So I actually peeped through a few doors while a little old lady signed her ballot and then handed it out to me, and I signed it as a witness. In the June 23rd primary, first of all, they moved that back to give us a little more room outside of COVID. We thought that the further we go into the summer, didn't really work like that. But so they removed that, and they started making changes to the absentee process. And what we did as a county was, again, we did everything we could to get people to vote early because it was just safer. What we wanted to do was just like everybody's trying to do, like just drop that curve down so that we had very few in-person voters on election day. That was our big goal. And we did a lot of stuff to create that. And we sent out a lot of information to people. Voter information during these 3 elections was very, absolutely important. And then for November, when they opened up with the 45-day early voting and all of that, we did everything we could. We had a great early voting. We voted 3,088 people in our office. We set the office up. We brought in 2 people just to handle absentee voting. We brought in another person. It was a big deal. It was a really big deal. But in most presidential elections, we get about 300 absentee voters. And this time we had 3,000. Sometimes on our first day, we had 150 people walk through our office. Just amazing numbers that we would never have thought possible. But that was half of our voters. That was 50% of the voters that turned up came in early. And we thought we did a really good job and the voters too. I got to say, we did our end, but the voters upheld their end and they wore masks. We didn't have any trouble. We thought we'd be fighting people. Wear a mask, do this and that. All our voters were absolutely great. Courteous to us to do it as well, but to other voters. So it just worked really well. It was just kind of something that everybody seemed to pull in and get together on. But it was so challenging. We're still going to have elections, based on COVID restrictions. I mean, this one coming up in June, we're going to run the same way. PPE, we got all sorts of equipment. It was kind of a crazy time. And I think at this point, early voting is always going to be a thing. So it's good for everybody.
I know, but in the previous elections, Northampton generally has a decent voter turnout, right?
Sure. Usually we do, like this gubernatorial we've got coming in November, we should do maybe 65%, especially because, when a governor wins, the state goes to that party. They get all the good jobs. So that'll be pretty well voted. Presidential, we get around 70, 72. It's hard to say turnout percentages. I mean, our turnout was the largest we've ever had for the last presidential. Percentages are tough because we know there's voters out there who are not in our county anymore, but just kind of on our rolls. So, and we try to work with that. But yeah, we have good voting. We have some really, really good voting in Northampton, and I'm really proud of that. We wish we had more 18 to 24-year-olds come in.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you guys would make a big difference in how we look at things.
Very true. Earlier, when we first started, you mentioned that people come to you when they want to run for office.
Yes.
Can you just give us the breakdown of how, if I wanted to run or if one of them wanted to run, what would be the basic process for that?
Well, that's a great question. On the national, federal level, and even on the state, there are age limits for who can run and when, and I think you might go through all that in the Constitution when you look at Constitution stuff. But for local races, school board of supervisors, anybody over 18 who was a qualified voter in the county, on town councils too, the local stuff, it's really not too hard to get on the ballot. It's paperwork. It's 20 minutes of filling out paperwork to get in. The hardest part for most candidates is the petition process. Although for me, I think it's the key process too. For petitions, every candidate has to go out and have 125 people sign a petition that they will support their candidacy for that role. That doesn't mean I have to vote for the person. So if some of your students or you yourself are asked to sign a petition, you're not obligated to vote for that person. You just say, yeah, I'd like to see you on the ballot. We've had other opponents sign each other's petitions, if that gives you any idea how it works. So, but really, if you can get 125 people, that means that people are interested in you running, and you kind of have the go-getter attitude to go out and do it. It does take a lot of footwork. You got to knock on doors. You got to know people. You got to know what they want. You got to talk to them. But the barriers in Virginia are very low. There is no money. You don't have to have any kind of money to run on a local level. As a matter of fact, as a local candidate, if you don't take campaign funds, which very few do, you have a much easier paperwork trail because you don't have to do a lot of campaign finance stuff. But yeah, doing the job's the hard part. I think running for office is probably it wouldn't be easy, but it's pretty simple. But yeah, we really do need a lot of different people running. I always encourage, for especially local races, I love having a contest, 2 people on the ballot. For me, I think it's healthy to have choices, and we do need choices when people run for office, because local people, they're the ones that make the biggest difference in what you do. If you're 18 and if you can vote next year and you're still in high school, think about 18-year-old senior voting next year. You can vote for your school board person. And in January, the people you vote for are going to come in and run your school. That's your day-to-day life. I mean, it doesn't get much more, close on all that. So absolutely, if you can, vote in the local elections, but run for stuff too. I'd love to see an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old on a school board or on a board of supervisors ticket. That would be neat.
How can I get involved?
Well, on the ground floor is voting. Be a voter. Make choices. And don't just be a voter. Be an informed voter. Know what people will what they want to go in and do. And like I say, I mean, the local stuff is interesting because you can go to, if you live in District 3, you can walk into Mr. Bennett's room and say, Mr. Bennett, what are you going to do for schools if I wanted to vote for you? You could go to any of your local people. District 1, you could go to John Coker and ask him. I'm sure he'd love to talk with students. So number one, be a voter and talk to the people you're going to vote for, if you can. Obviously, you get to those levels of president and all that, it's hard to get them on the phone, but the local people you bump into all the time, and it's as good for them to talk to you as you to talk to them, because they want to know what you guys think. So number one, if you're going to be an involved citizen, be an informed and active voter. Number two, if you wanted to get involved in elections, we would love to have people. If you're, help work the actual election day. If you're under 18, we can work you as an election page. You go in for a couple hours. It's community service, so kind of bonus for you. And you just kind of help people stand in line and get people into the precincts, get them information. It's pretty. We don't really give you a whole lot to do because we know you're new. But if you're over 18 and want to help us out on election day, by all means, let us know, and we can put you in the polling place, pay you about $115 a day, give you training, you work with great people. It's a long day, and but kids can, I'm sure a lot of your students wake up early to go to work, come home from work late. So I'm sure, and school and everything else. So I don't think the hours would bother them too much, although it's about 5 to 9, 5 in the morning till 9 at night. But we would love to have younger people. Also, voters absolutely love walking in and seeing, because they don't just know you as the young kid. They know you because they know your mom. They've been to church with you. They watch you go through school. They might have been on the little league team. So they always get a kick out of finding young people in the polls working and helping out. It's really great.
I really appreciate you taking time out of your day to do this interview. Normally you would come into school and have to do this several times.
Those are the good times.
And I know you love doing it since you're a former teacher, but I do once again appreciate your time. And do you have any closing words before we end this meeting?
No, I just want to reiterate, and I'm glad that you're encouraging the kids to vote. It really is fundamental. We really do have elections that go down to like 10 voters, especially local stuff. And you would be surprised at, the power of voting. But also, like you say, it engages you as a citizen. You're not just sitting back and watching things. You are saying, I want to know the issue so I can go vote for this person or that person. And that's the power. We get to choose. And if you don't take the choice, that's a different kind of choice. And you really, you may not, you want, everybody wants to be in the driver's seat. Everybody wants to be their own agent. Voting is one of those very simple things that you can do that with. So thank you. Go out and vote, kids. Be good, do good in school, listen to your mom and dad, your teachers, your coaches, and Aaron go bra.
Thanks again. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks, Ms. Fenderson. Thanks for having me. See y'all.